The Just Cause line is one of the most relaxing and stress relievers on the market, to be honest. The whole core concept of this IP is destruction, and developer Avalanche Studios will give you all the tools you need to do it and more. The third game was a lot of fun, and even had a hilariously ridiculous multiplayer mode that resurrected the game long after its popularity subsided. In the fourth game, the number of graphics, story, graphics and vehicles used by Rico Rodriguez only increased, and so did the map size. Not much, but enough to warrant JC4 replacing JC3 on this list, but the third game will always remain a cult classic for fans to return to. Released in 1999, Asheron's Call is considered one of the first MMOs to adopt so-called seamless 3D environments. In other words, much of the playing field could be traversed without the need for overload screens. Although official servers were closed in 2017, the game continues thanks to a dedicated emulation community. With 500 square miles to explore, Asheron's Call must have been one of the most special experiences of its era in 1999. The Legend of Zelda, in an era when Ocarina of Time's Hyrule Field was considered impressive, this MMO was in a league of its own. Featuring 2 islands, there are just over 2,000 miles in total. 2011's Test Drive Unlimited 2 was a cute game for racing enthusiasts. While the lack of a true pedestrian section means players can feel a little out of the world, there are almost no environments to explore or races to participate in. Games of this nature tend to be a dozen or so these days, but in 2011, a map of this size should have been invaluable for the game's sale. Final Fantasy XV, a franchise that started in the era of 8-bit consoles, is so surprisingly large that the hard drive space required to download it would occupy all buildings in 1987. The game's map cannot be explored directly, and can only be flown over it, but the huge map is still impressive. Also, the 15 francs, and above all the 15 francs were said and done when it was released, 2 completely different games. And let's not forget the real mountains, that turn into a few hours of boss fight. All in all, 15 is a huge deviation from the frequently criticized linear Final Fantasy XIII. Ubisoft's 2014 Need for Speed clone, The Crew, was notorious for creating a playable approach to all of North America. However, this is somewhat misleading, as the landscape presented in The Crew is actually concentrated on an area of 1,900 square miles, approximately the same size as Delaware. In real life, it takes hours to get from San Francisco to Los Angeles, while the trip can be done in about 10 minutes in-game. That said, Ubisoft's digital handling of Open Destiny is still impressive. The 2009's Fuel is considered to be one of the biggest racing games available in terms of its wide riding range. With a map spanning an almost unimaginable 55-60 square miles, it's forgivable to think that Codemasters has a real winner. Unfortunately, Fuel didn't go too well as the playground was too big by many for their own good and full of bugs, exploits, and other technical issues. This post-apocalyptic Mad Max one-up, devoid of content and largely vicious, only looks worse after the real Mad Max game comes out and shows Fuel how it's done. Nightfall in 2006 presented one of the biggest maps in video game history, and yet this game did not appear very often. It looks like an expansion, but actually being a standalone game, Nightfall has allowed players to explore roughly thousands of square miles of the Guild Wars world, and enjoy the same Guild Wars style gameplay they had in the previous 2 games. Almost ambitious to a mistake, Guild Wars Nightfall is actually a well-remembered game, although it may not be a bit frowned upon by the lack of innovative new gameplay, and Guild Wars 2 is still very lively as an MMORPG. Atlas is the nautical MMORPG that seems to have a lot of potential, but just can't seem to live it up to the full. With over 33,000 reviews on Steam, it's a slightly bad sign that the average buy is mixed. Simply put, it is a survival MMO that has many similarities to other games of the same genre, such as Atlas, Rust, and 7 Days to Die. The only difference is that while these games slowly but surely fixed all their bugs and added new features, Atlas continued to add new things with new bugs, without fixing the old ones. However, if you're looking for some kind of nautical multiplayer experience, Sea of Thieves is far more valuable, but in terms of sheer size, Atlas is the clear winner. And you thought the world of Skyrim was big. The 1996 sequel to Bethesda's successful fantasy CRPG, The Elder Scrolls Arena, is popularly thought to have the largest in-game map, as well as theoretically endless playgrounds that other open-world games have managed to achieve, allowing players to explore almost every inch of the fictional Tamriel continent. Daggerfall's scope is impressive in terms of gameplay as well as map size. While some have surpassed it to randomly generate most of the terrain, this feat is surprising, given the fact that 3D gameplay was a brand new feature in games at the time. Finally, let's talk about procedurally generated games. Technically, they shouldn't be counted considering they don't have a number you can attribute to their size. But it has open worlds and big maps, so it checks out. So we're talking about games like No Man's Sky, Minecraft, Elite Dangerous, EVE Online and more. All of these games create new planets, blocks and galaxies as you progress as you go, so there is no real end to exploration. Minecraft is an almost empty open world to reflect your goals. No Man's Sky is an endless journey between endless planets. Elite Dangerous, Euro Truck Simulator in space, and EVE Online is almost indescribable. Scope and impact. However, one thing all these games have in common is that their main focus is exploration, and what more could you really want in an open world game? Thank you for watching the video. If you liked the video, don't forget to click the like button and subscribe to the page.